Hey fellas, how you doing? I want to share a few thoughts with you. It's been a conversation I've been having regularly quite a lot. If you've seen my other videos where I've spoken about why I stopped doing day game, why I felt it wasn't ethical, it's cheating, it's lying, it's not good for your happiness, your well-being, it makes you a dishonest person. So in this video I'm going to speak about congruency, and I'm going to speak about functional relationships as opposed to dysfunctional relationships, and I've learned to do both. So a quick bit of background about me in case you don't know much about, can you see me here? Is it too dark? In case you don't know much about me, I grew up in really a dysfunctional setting. Growing up through most of my life, my relationships were dysfunctional. They were dysfunctional because I was dysfunctional. So obviously, because I've always, at the time, was always quite naturally shy with people, I struggled socially to really speak my mind, had lots of issues and insecurities, especially around men trying to intimidate me and bully me because I was in lots of fights, and that sort of projected onto relationships with women and trying to find women, and always sort of feeling that I wasn't really attractive to the attractive woman, if that makes sense, the stereotypical really attractive girl you see walking down the street or in the magazines. These women are not going to be interested in me because I don't have the sort of money, I just don't have the personality, and I'm not physically attractive looking. So when I started to learn techniques and I started to learn pickup artistry and day game and do this stuff, it worked, it started to work. And of course I was excited, I couldn't believe that I could start attracting women. It was only actually till I got good at creating these type of relationships. These are what I call dysfunctional relationships, where you're using each other in the friendship, but there's no real honesty and love. And this goes whether it's a relationship with a male friend or whether it's a sexual relationship with a woman. And this also goes in reverse if there's women watching this. So for me, a dysfunctional relationship is when there's no integrity, where you're both wearing a mask and you know you're doing it. So for example, maybe a guy goes out and he uses tricks to attract a woman, and the woman knows what he's about, and she signs up for it. So she doesn't trust him, she's not interested in him as a boyfriend, or she's not interested in getting to know him deeper or introducing him to her family. She's not really gonna, you got stung there, let him into her life. It's just gonna be sex, they're gonna meet up, have sex. There's gonna be a base level of friendship, but it's not gonna be intimate. There's not gonna be a real connection. This is what Gabor Mate talks about, psychologists, that we all yearn for deeper connection, all of us do. Whether some of us don't want to admit it, usually people that don't admit it have been hurt in the past. I've been hurt in the past. Abusive relationship from a father, from a mother, or you've been cheated, there's been a sense of betrayal, and that has unconsciously and consciously ruined your trust. So congruence is about trust. Congruency is about self-trust. You start realizing that there's a correlation or there's a pattern. If there's any parts of you that doesn't trust yourself in your relationships, you start attracting those type of relationships everywhere. You might attract that in your business relationships, you might have that relationship with your mum, with your dad. You're probably going to have that relationship with women you're dating. Now, despite still being successful in your life, you could be making money in your business, you could be successful in the sense that you pick up women regularly, you get women and people see you as a guy successful, but you don't feel good, you don't like yourself, you feel depressed, you have doubts, you don't trust the relationships that are around you. And this is the incongruency. The incongruency is that you are out of alignment with who you are and what your actual motives and intentions are. So you actually start realizing that you're not operating from your own motives, from your true authentic self, which is understood. It's difficult to break this down in contextual language, but it's understood by Gabor Mate, and I've said it myself, that intuitive feeling, the self that is not the personality, not what I'm saying now, although this is coming from the self. This is why there's a bit of a struggle to say this, because I'm not making things up, I'm speaking from truth, speaking from the heart. But there's an intuitive feeling that you're not living right, despite you're getting all of these egoic results, which could be making money, but the money is actually not coming from a place of integrity. Maybe you're bending the rules in your business, you're bending the rules in the job you're doing, and you start to realize when you actually look at it that you're lying everywhere. That to lie in one area is to lie in all areas. And this is when it really starts becoming enlightening. And then you start seeing how people are treating you, you realize that people are actually not treating you well. So from one perspective, if you're going out picking up women, you think people are treating me well because I'm getting women. but you realise that you're getting them at the cost of them having no respect for you. Because if someone doesn't trust you, that means they don't respect you. You can't have respect without trust. And then you start questioning a lot of the morals and the things that we're being taught in society. You start looking at the behaviours on Facebook, the way people treat one another. You start seeing the pictures that people post, and you start thinking, well, is this actually coming from the true self? Or is it come from the egoic self, the self that wants to protect itself from being hurt by people? Then it starts to become really insightful. Then you start thinking, do I actually trust myself? Am I wearing a mask? And then everything that you've bought into, you say, maybe it could be wrong. Maybe sleeping with lots of women is not success. Maybe that's actually dysfunctional. Maybe that has a traumatic effect on my self-esteem. Initially it feels good because you're getting attention, and of course we've got needs, men and women, we've got sexual needs, but then you start questioning something I heard from a really good teacher, the difference between sex and love. Shagging a girl or a woman shagging a man, having wild sex, it feels good, but sometimes it doesn't satisfy you, because there's a difference between making love and having sex. And I never even thought about this myself. Years ago I didn't even care about this stuff. I was too ignorant. I was too violent and aggressive. Then you think, I don't have love in my life. I've got sex, I've got women, I'm making money, but even the money's not attached to love. The money's corrupt. The money, I'm bending the rules to make the money. I'm tricking people. And then you start realizing that there's a reason for this. There's a deeper reason, and the reason is it's because it's coming from a childhood trauma, or it's coming from a past trauma. And then you say, I'm gonna sneeze. You don't sneeze. That's not. I'm in a big field here. This is not a good idea. Someone's got hay fever. Then you say, I don't love myself. And the reason I don't love myself is because I'm not nurturing that part that needs to be nurtured. And there's nothing soft about this. It's probably the most emotionally difficult thing to do initially, and to maintain it. But it's very, very, very rewarding. It's very beautiful. And then you think, how do I start building functional relationships? Then you realise that you've got to change your ways. You've got to give up all of these personalities that created these dysfunctional relationships in the first place. So you've got to start with yourself, because you're probably thinking, well, it's her fault, it's his fault, my boss's fault, the guy, and it's like, no, it's actually your fault, because you allowed it, you created that. So you have to change yourself. You have to start actually living with integrity. And this is where more self-trust comes in, because you have to lose the manipulation. There's a lot of power holding on to the manipulation, because it's giving you stability, it's giving you a sense of power, it's allowing you to hide. Sorry, I know that wasn't polite. I wouldn't usually do that. I couldn't, blocked up. That wasn't very nice. So, yeah, it's giving you a sense of power, but at the cost of abandoning yourself. Betrayal of the self is one of the biggest crimes you can do on yourself, because then you betray other people. If I betray you, it's because I betray me. So if I don't betray you, I don't betray me. Win-win. It doesn't mean that you allow people to walk all over you. As a matter of fact, it's the complete opposite. People can't walk all over you when you've got integrity, because you're protected. Because anyone who comes by you that doesn't have integrity, they're going to sense it. Whether that's sensed in presence or energy, or whether that's actually said verbally through disagreement or whatever. So it starts to becoming really powerful. Now we're talking about love versus a false attempt at love. And that's what Gabor Mate talks about. That's what Johnny Berba talks about and teaches, is that when we go into our addictive personalities, we betray ourselves at the cost of not trusting ourselves, not loving ourselves, not fully trusting other people, not loving other people. And we think we can keep getting away with that. We think we can keep accumulating all of this distrust and and letting our addictions destroy us, and not have to face the consequences emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, socially. We have to pay the price. It's karma. What we put out returns. So we start thinking, I'm not enjoying having this. This is certainly what I said to myself. I've had a lifetime of dysfunctional relationships. I don't want this anymore. It doesn't make me feel good. Whether I feel I'm in control or not. And then you start saying, I'm actually not in control. And Alan Watts said something beautiful. The only way to be in control is to relinquish control. That's very deep. You have to really understand that. I got it, understood it. Hopefully you guys will. You guys are smart. I sense that, and you're women. So that's when we start talking about congruency. We start getting right down to the authentic motive. So for me, is it really congruent for me to go out and to brag and to use and to sleep with different women and rationalize it and to cheat on different women and to say, yeah, but they agreed with it, so it's not cheating, or I told them that I'm seeing other women, so it's all right. So I started to say to myself, well, that's actually not coming from my authentic self. Then I said, is it authentic for me to teach this, to make a living out of this? I'm like, well, no, that's coming from trauma, that's coming from a personality that's false, that's coming from a level of consciousness that is not awake. And I say, so what is the real motive? Well, the motive is I want to help people that were struggling like I was. It's like, well, before I help them, I've got to get myself right, which I did. So it's like, what I'm saying and teaching now, I want to help people to build functional relationships. I want to help people to love themselves. I want to help people to identify their authentic self, and not just to work from that place, to live from that place. If this sounds too deep and too profound, then you're not aiming high enough, because I'm looking to live at the highest level of integrity. I'm looking to achieve the best I can out of my life, and I'm in the process of doing that. Some things I've done, some I'm still working on, and I teach this. I want to be honest about what I'm doing. I want to say to my students that sometimes I struggle with what I tell you and I encourage you to do, but I am doing it. And I am doing it to the best of my ability. And most of the stuff I'm doing, I'm not struggling, it's given me so much joy, so much satisfaction. Most of my struggle is not in living authentically, but in, it's within reframing from those personalities that are trying to make me live inauthentically, that are trying to take me away from who I am. When I fall into an insecure story that comes in my head, or I think about something that's negative, or I don't want to face up to the truth, this is the time when it calls upon, I guess, to use the word, being a real man or a real strong woman. And this is where the satisfaction's at, and that's when all of the selfish things that we all want to get, if we're being honest, they just become secondary. They don't come at a cost of losing your integrity, because we all want to make more money, if we're being honest. There's no point trying to get away from it, but we can make money with integrity. That's what I do in my business. I've got integrity. I make money with integrity, with love. I change people's lives with telling my honesty and helping them with their honesty. I have that in my relationships. But sometimes to get to this place, we have to lose everything to start with. But we realize that we're not losing everything. We're not losing nothing. We're getting rid of all the dishonesty. We are contracting so we can expand. That is exactly what we're doing. We're doing one of the most powerful spiritual teachings that's probably in the Bible somewhere, probably in the Quran. Don't quote me on that, but I'm sensing I'm right. People like Tolly are teaching it, but so many good teachers, people that actually have got proof to make this work in their life and in the world, and with their own happiness. So look around you. The proof is there. The proof is there. If you want to see dysfunctional relationships, you'll see it. You'll see it anywhere you want to go. If you want to see functional relationships, you'll also see that. So it's about getting the dysfunctionality, if that's a word, I felt smart when I said that, out of yourself, and getting to know yourself and working on yourself. And you always know how to do it. And people say, how do I do it? It's like, don't bullshit me, you know. I knew how to become honest. You don't have to be taught how to be honest. You have to have the courage to face the fear. That's what most of my teaching is about. It's about helping people with what they already know and they're afraid to do, giving them some support. That's it. It's profound. This is what I'm teaching on my 6 weeks program. This is what I'm teaching right now on the Skype. This is what I write from the newsletter. This is what I'm teaching myself. This is what I'm reminding myself, to keep reminding myself of why am I doing this, why am I living like this? Because living authentically is hard. It's hard for me, especially when you've been living inauthentically for so long, and all your friends are doing it. Maybe some of your family are doing it. It's difficult because your truth then it doesn't become someone else's truth. It offends them, but that's not a problem. That's what you've got to be willing to do if you want pure happiness. And that's where I see a lot of women struggling as well. They're not living authentically. They're making all the same mistakes that men would make. So that's congruence in a nutshell. That should have explained it to you. That's what I've learned about it. I'm still learning it myself. That's what my mentor taught me, encouraged me. That's what I taught myself. That's what I've learned from other people. And it's always been learning through my own experience. When someone teaches me or tells me something, I go and try it, make sure that it works. And I do that by applying it practically, psychologically, spiritually, in every aspect, writing it down, questioning it, challenging it, testing it. And it hasn't failed so far. Because we're talking about love. Dysfunctionality is fear. Functional relationships, love. Think love's soft, go try it out. Because for me, the fear stuff was always easier. I had first-class honours in fear. I was fighting all the time, I was violent, I was angry, I was jealous. I was around that all the time. It was a good hiding place. It was a way to wear a mask. When I went towards love, I was terrified. I thought I'm gonna have a nervous breakdown, I'm gonna go crazy, it's too difficult. I thought love was romantic, was flowers. I'm sneezing a bit. This is I thought it was oh, it's not very nice. I'm struggling to do this video, see? This is living authentically. So, but eventually, it's not a question whether it's hard or easy. It's a question of it's the right thing to do, and it feels good, and the rewards are limitless. How could you put a price on loving yourself, enjoying being in your own body? You're with yourself for 24 hours a day. And remember, we all get days where we feel down. It's part of being a human being. I'm not trying to get away from being a human. I'm actually inspiring you to humanize you more, and myself as well. This is really where the truth's at, I think, for everyone. It's just a question of how the route you go around that, and the personality that you express out that truth. And that was my truth, but I found my truth through an untruth, through being dishonest. So sometimes the wrong path puts you onto the right path. So going out doing pickup artistry, and not just pickup artistry, how I was living my life before that, dysfunctional relationships, violent relationships, manipulative relationships that were not based on love, that were based on what favors can you do for me, or how conveniently can I use you to take out all my depression on, or so I didn't want that anymore, and I got rid of it. And it was the most rewarding, exciting thing I ever did. It became so clear, and there's no going back. And this is what I teach. If you want to learn more, go to my website www.johnnyberba.com. Stay up to date with my newsletters, my blogs, and all my coaching information is on there if you want to work with me. I'll see you guys soon. Remember, congruency is living from an authentic place, not just saying what's authentic, living it. See you soon, bye.